The doors of the Tzari royal chamber slid open with a deep metallic sigh. Every eye in the room turned as the human ambassador stepped inside. Commander Rain was calm, straight-backed, his eyes scanning the grand alien court like a soldier assessing a battlefield. He wore the black and silver uniform of Earth's interstellar diplomatic corps, not a single medal or ribbon on his chest. Only the Earth crest over his heart. He had come for peace, but he walked like a man ready for war. The Tzari court was built like a temple. Tall crystal pillars glowed with shifting light. Casting colors across the silver floors, strange floral scents filled the air, each one carefully designed to communicate emotion, curiosity, caution, a whisper of challenge, and at the center of it all, sitting on a throne made of living vines and whispering glass, was Queen Jalira. She stood as he approached, her tall frame wrapped in ceremonial armor, more artwork than protection. Her skin shimmered like polished copper, her eyes bright with questions. She had been briefed about humans, but briefing couldn't prepare her for this one. Rain didn't walk like a diplomat. He walked like a predator in a place of prey. He stopped 3 paces from her throne. He did not kneel. He did not bow. He simply said, "Queen Jalira, I bring the voice of Earth and the hand of peace." The silence that followed was heavy. Not offended, not yet, just confused. One of the Tzari counselors shifted slightly, sending out a quick pulse of sentence certainty. Mixed with warning, the queen tilted her head, studying him. This was the moment the ritual had begun, but he didn't know it. Jalira stepped down from her throne, slowly, each movement precise and deliberate. Her hands rose to her shoulders, fingers brushing the golden clips that held her armor in place. The Tzari ritual of first offering was ancient, was not seduction, but a test of understanding. To accept it was to begin negotiation. To reject it was to insult her, to ignore it. That was something even their history did not imagine. Commander Rain watched, puzzled but respectful. He assumed she was adjusting her attire, perhaps ceremonial, so he simply stood there, hands behind his back, waiting. And then, in one smooth motion, the queen let her armor fall to the floor. The room froze. Every Tzari in the chamber held their breath. Some even looked away, not out of shame, but reverence. Rain blinked. He looked left, then right, then back at the queen. Her expression remained unreadable. Her eyes fixed on him, waiting, but Rain didn't react, didn't speak, didn't move. To him, it was a moment of cultural mystery. Better to stay silent than to offend, he thought. But in this moment, silence was the deepest offense of all. A low murmur passed through the court. The queen's face changed, her eyes narrowing not in anger, but in surprise, maybe even hurt. The counselors stood, tense, their hands moving toward weapons. Rain finally sensed danger. He raised both palms. Peaceful. What just happened? He asked, voice steady. A voice answered not from the queen, but from one of her advisors. You refused the ritual. The advisor said, voice tight, you spat on her offering. Rain frowned. I didn't refuse anything, he said. I didn't understand what was happening. Jalira spoke then, her voice quiet but sharp. Then you did not prepare. You came to negotiate with a people you do not respect. I came to negotiate with honesty, Rain replied. I will not pretend to understand what I don't, but I will ask, I will learn. The queen stared at him for a long, breathless moment. Then she turned away. Take him, she said to the guards. Rain did not resist. As the guards approached, he looked at her once more. You wanted my attention, queen, he said. You have it now. As they dragged him from the court, the queen remained still. Her armor lay where it had fallen, untouched, for the first time in her reign. The ritual had failed, and she was not sure if it was her failure or his victory. Tzari Prime had no moon. Still, the sky glowed above the palace with purple light from the twin suns. Shadows danced on the walls of the queen's private chamber as she stood alone. Silent, barefoot on the cool stone floor. Her armor was gone, not just off her body, gone from meaning, from power, from pride. No one had ever walked past her offering without reaction, not in hundreds of years, not in any recorded ritual, but this human, this Rain. He had simply looked and waited, not insulted, not aroused, not afraid, just unaware. She had read the human files she had memorized, their behavior data, but this man did not match the models. They were a species of emotion, of fire, of loud words and louder actions, and yet he stood like still water. And now he sat in her cell, unbroken, unapologetic, unpredictable. Her hand brushed against the glowing wall. The room responded with warm blue light. The AI waited for her command. She gave none. Instead, she whispered to herself, I tested his instinct. He gave me, thought I gave him, tradition. He gave me curiosity. Was I wrong to begin with offering? Was he wrong to ignore it? The AI offered no answer, only silence and pulse. Far below, in the royal prison, Commander Rain sat on a smooth bench inside a clear wall cell. No chains, no restraints, just time. He was thinking. Not of escape, not of battle, but of meaning. He replayed the moment over and over, the queen's movements. The reaction from the court, the sudden silence. He understood now that he had missed something. Something sacred, but he didn't regret his response. He didn't lie. He didn't fake understanding. And that was something he hoped meant more than ritual. The door to the chamber hissed. He looked up. It was her Queen Jalera, entered with no guards, no armor, no crown, only a long cloak made of soft threads that shimmered like water. She stood before his cell, watching him like a scientist watches a new life form. I should not be here, she said. I should be preparing to declare war, or at least rejection. But I have a question, and only you can answer it. Rain stood, not close, not defiant, just present. Ask, he said. Why did you not kneel? He looked into her eyes, saw fire and confusion. Both not anger anymore, but a storm of questions. I was not told to kneel, he said, where I come from. Respect is not shown by the position of the body, it's shown by the intention of the heart. And I came here to speak with you as an equal, not as a servant, not as a conqueror. She narrowed her eyes. You believe yourself equal to a queen. Believe every species has something to offer. Even if we don't understand the customs, I did not know what your offering meant, but I did not laugh. I did not turn away. I simply waited for the moment to make sense. That is how humans show caution, not through fear, but patience. Jalera said nothing for a moment. Then she stepped closer. The wall between them vanished, transparent energy fading into air. No human has stood here before, she said. You are the first of your kind to speak to me without translation or mask. You are either foolish or dangerous, or both. I've been called worse, Rain replied. With a faint smile, she walked past him, not touching but circling like a judge around a mystery. There is one way to test if your words mean anything. We have a trial. It is not of blood, but of mind. It is called the Gauntlet of Truth. It shows your soul through fear, through illusion, through pain that isn't real, but feels more real than anything you've known. If you survive it, you will speak with me again. Not as a prisoner, but as someone who understands. Rain did not blink. Then send me to your truth. She paused. A single nod. You will enter at first light, and if your mind breaks, do not blame the Tezzeri, blame your ignorance. She turned to leave, but paused at the door. Commander Rain, why did you not ask what my gesture meant? Why did you not stop me before the armor fell? Rain looked up at the glowing ceiling. Because I believed you were doing something sacred, and in my world, we do not interrupt sacred things, even if we don't understand them yet. The door closed behind her without a sound. The sun rose cold and red over Tezzeri Prime. Its light passed through crystal towers and burning sky glass. The palace was quiet, Even the guards stood still, waiting beneath the temple. In the stone chamber of trials, Commander Rain stood before a black arch. Its surface moved like smoke, alive, hungry. The gauntlet of truth did not test muscle, it tested mind, memory, fear, shame. No weapons. No armor, just you and the weight of your own thoughts. Queen Jalira watched from the high platform. She said no words, she wore a hood. Her expression unreadable. Rain stepped forward. The air thickened around him like walking through old dreams. The Tazri priest raised a single hand. The arch pulsed, the gate opened. Rain entered silence. Darkness, then light. He stood in a hallway made of mirrors. His reflection stared back. But it was not him, not fully. It looked tired, broken, angry. You left them, it whispered. You came here for pride, for glory, and earth burns without you. The hallway melted into a battlefield. Smoke, fire, screams. Rain saw his crew, his friends falling. He ran to help. But they vanished, turned to dust, carried away by wind. This is your future. A voice said, you tried to make peace with monsters. Now your people die for your mistake. Rain closed his eyes. He took a breath. This is not truth. This is fear. The fire froze. The battlefield cracked like glass, and he was alone again. The scene shifted now. He stood before his younger self. In a small room on Earth, the academy dorm, the younger Rain was yelling, you said we would never be like them. You said we would fight, but now you kneel before aliens and call it diplomacy. Rain looked at the boy. At the anger, the fire in his eyes. I never knelt, he said, and I never will. The younger self vanished, leaving only a mirror. And Rain saw himself again, older now, wiser still. Standing, he walked forward. The trial did not end. Now he saw the Queen Jalira. But not in the throne room. She was standing in the rain, alone, crying, her hands covered in blood. Not human blood. Sari blood. She looked at him, eyes wide with guilt. I had to do it, she whispered. My brother betrayed the peace. I had to take the crown with force. I had no choice. Rain walked to her. He did not speak. He placed a hand on her shoulder. She froze, then nodded. The rain stopped. The final test came. A voice filled the chamber. It was neither male nor female. It was old, made of stone and stars. Why do you seek peace with those who could one day destroy you? Rain stood tall because fear is not the way forward. Because war is not the only language we speak. Because we do not bow. We stand even when the ground shakes beneath us. The voice was silent. Then the air cleared. The smoke lifted. Rain stood alone in the center of the trial chamber. Above him, on the platform, Queen Jalira watched without blinking. He was supposed to be broken. He was supposed to be on his knees, but he stood straight, eyes steady. He passed. No human had ever entered the gauntlet. None were expected to survive. The queen descended the platform. Her cloak dragging behind her like a shadow. She stopped before him, looked into his eyes. You did not break. I do not bend, he replied. She nodded slowly, then offered her hand, not as queen to subject, but as leader to leader, and for the first time since the stars were mapped. A human and a Tsari touched hands. In peace, the ritual was not complete. But the understanding had begun. The chamber doors opened without sound. Tsari priests in silver robes lowered their heads as commander. Rain stepped out of the gauntlet. His boots touched the sacred floor where few outsiders had ever walked. Some looked at him with awe, some with fear, but none dared speak. Above them all, Queen Jalira stood like a statue carved from fire, unmoving eyes fixed on the man who had entered the trial of truth and returned untouched. He did not fall, he did not kneel, and that broke something ancient. She descended the stairs one by one, each step a signal, each breath held by the court around them. You saw what no outsider was meant to see, she said, as she reached him, and yet, you walk freely. Rain looked up at the glass ceiling. It shimmered with the light of Ceres' twin suns. Then he turned to her. I walked through fear. Through illusion, through history, but none of it was mine, it was yours. Jalira tilted her head, explained, you showed me your fears, your losses, your doubts, your past. You made me feel your pain, but you never asked if I carried any of my own rain. Answered. The queen stayed silent. For the first time she felt the shift. He was no longer the outsider. He was something else. Now a mirror, a question, maybe even an answer. The court murmured they had never heard anyone speak to the queen without weight in their voice. Rain spoke like the ground was solid under his feet, like her throne was not higher than his principles. You saw the false battlefield, she said, the burning earth, the broken crew. What did you feel? I felt regret, he said, because I knew if I ever failed, it would not be because of my enemy, it would be because I misunderstood what mattered most. She moved closer, too close for tradition. But this moment was beyond protocol now. And what do you think matters most to us? She asked. He answered without pause. Control. Jalira laughed. Not with joy, but with surprise. And to you, she asked. Respect, he said, but not the kind that kneels. The queen turned from him. She faced the court. Let it be known, this human passed the gauntlet and answered not as a warrior, not as a servant, but as something new. The council shifted uncomfortably. Some narrowed their eyes. Whispers filled the air. Is he to be trusted? One voice asked. Is he to be feared? Another said. The queen raised one hand, and the chamber fell silent. He is to be watched. She said, because understanding changes more than invasion ever could. Rain spoke again. I did not come here to change you. But I will not let misunderstanding become war. Teach me your ways, and I will teach you mine. Jalira stepped forward, looked into his eyes, and for a moment, she saw not a man, but a storm held inside a calm sky. You do not act like your species, she said. Maybe you do not know my species, he replied. She smiled, a slow, cautious curve of the lips. Then follow me, there is more you need to see. She led him through a hidden passage behind the throne, a narrow tunnel of glowing vines and silent machines. It opened into a wide balcony above the city. The view was endless, sprawling towers, hovercraft, moving like insects. The sky full of shimmering light trails. This is what we built after the old gods fell. She said, this is the world fear created. But maybe curiosity can shape what comes next. Rain stepped beside her, not behind her. Beside, do you still worship them? He asked. Your gods, no, she said. We've replaced them with systems, with law, with control. But sometimes, when I walk through the halls alone, I wonder if we killed something we still needed. Rain nodded slowly. Maybe gods are not meant to be obeyed. Maybe they are meant to be challenged, and if they smile back, then they were worth having. Jalira turned to him, eyes reflecting the sky. Then maybe today, one of them smiled at you. The stars above Suri Prime looked colder that night. As if the sky itself had paused to listen, Queen Jalira stood at the edge of her private chamber balcony. A place where only monarchs walked alone. The wind wrapped around her cloak like whispers from the past. Behind her, footsteps approached, but she did not turn. She knew who it was. Commander Rain stepped into the moonless light. He did not speak. He only stood a few steps behind her, waiting. Most beings would have spoken by now, explained their presence, asked questions, tried to impress. But this human, this strange, fearless man, he understood silence like it was part of his training. You passed the gauntlet. She finally said, you walk through illusions meant to break the mind. Yet here you are, breathing, steady, eyes clear. How Rain stepped closer. His voice was calm. I have seen worse than illusions. And I have lost more than pride. Pain is not new to my kind. It is our oldest teacher. Jalira turned slowly. The soft glow of the palace lit half her face. The other half belonged to shadow and memory. You are not like the others, she said. The first humans we observed were loud, emotional. They burned bright and fast. But you burn slowly. Rain gave a small nod. We burn when needed, but when we stand, we endure. There was silence again. Not awkward, but thoughtful, tell me, she asked. What do your people want from this alliance? Survival, Rain replied. Not just survival of body, but of meaning. We do not want to become like those who forget. We want to remember who we are, even when surrounded by giants. Jalira walked past him, her hand brushed the balcony edge. Do you think we are giants? She asked. Rain looked out at the city towers rose, like silver trees, lights moved like stars reborn. You are, he said. But even giants need someone who will not flinch when they speak. That answer made her stop, not because it was bold, but because it was honest. And honesty was rare in her court. She turned again to face him. You do not fear me. No, he said, and I do not worship you either. I respect you. That is enough. A slow breath escaped her lips, and for the first time. It was not a breath of control, it was relief. She gestured to the stone bench near the edge. Come sit with me, not as prisoner, not as ambassador, but as someone who has seen my people's fears. Rain sat beside her. Their shoulders did not touch. But the space between them felt charged, not with threat, but with understanding. She looked at him from the side. In my culture, strength is shown by how much you carry without asking for help. We do not speak of pain. We do not show fear. We are taught to stand tall, even when the ground is breaking beneath us. That sounds familiar, Rain said. Maybe we are not so different. She smiled, a tired, worn smile. Maybe, she whispered, far below. The lights of the city dimmed for the night phase, a signal that rest was allowed, even if rest rarely came. There are those who would destroy this alliance, she said. Those who fear what peace might cost. My brother among them. Then they do not understand the true cost of war. Rain replied. Jalira stood, her cloak sweeping behind her like a quiet wave. I cannot change all minds in one day, but I can change mine, and tonight it changes because of you. Rain stood. To what now? He asked. Now, she said, we stop talking about peace like it is a dream. We start building it like it is a weapon. As she walked away, she paused at the doorway. There will be a council gathering in 3 days. They will vote on the treaty. Most will vote no. Rain raised an eyebrow. Then we change their minds. No, she said, without turning. We change their hearts. And then she was gone, leaving only the sound of wind and one human who had done the impossible. He had made an alien queen begin to respect the unknown. Night fell like a whisper across the Tezuri capital. The sky was dark but restless. The winds carried the weight of coming storm in the high chamber of diplomacy. Candles burned low with blue flame. Council members gathered in circles of power. Their robes shimmered with symbols of status and silence. Queen Jalira sat on the throne of light. But tonight she did not feel like a ruler. She felt like a line drawn in sand, waiting for waves to erase or defend it. Commander Rain stood beside her. No armor, no title, just presence. He had earned that place not through submission, but through survival, through patience, through truth. The council meeting had not yet started, but the walls already held tension. Eyes whispered before mouths did. Rain leaned slightly toward her. How many will vote against the treaty? He asked in a quiet voice. Most, she answered without flinching, and some will not stop with votes. He understood without needing more words. Politics was never only paper and speech. It was power dressed in rules and ambition. Hiding behind ceremony, the doors opened. High Chancellor Veleth entered. Her cloak trailed behind like a shadow reaching for blood. She bowed slightly, not to honor the queen, but to challenge her with grace. Behind her, another figure stepped in, taller, harder eyes, sharp with calculation. Jalira froze for half a second, only half, but Rain saw it. That is your brother, he said. Yes, she replied, that is Varn. He did not wait for permission. Varn walked straight to the center ring, raised one hand, and spoke like a knife drawn slowly. My queen, we have listened to this human long enough. We have let him walk our halls, breathe our air, pollute our rituals with confusion and weakness. He turned to Rain. And yet he still stands here next to you as if he belongs. Rain stepped forward. His voice was steady, his tone like steel under silk. I never claimed to belong. I came to listen, to learn, and to offer peace. Peace, Varn, repeated like it was poison. You bring peace from a species that expands like flame, that colonizes rocks and calls it growth. You smile as if your words carry no weight, but they are heavy with the future. Jalira stood. The room fell still. Brother, she said, your fear is loud, but your facts are quiet. Varn narrowed his eyes. You protect him. You call him equal. Would you betray your blood for an alien? No, she said. I would betray war for a chance at something better. Varn moved faster than thought. A flick of his wrist, a blade hidden beneath his robe. It flew through the air. Rain stepped sideways just enough. The blade sliced his shoulder, but did not stop him. He rushed forward, not with rage, but with purpose in one motion. He disarmed Varn and held him still, one arm across his chest, the other gripping the blade meant to kill. He did not stab, he did not strike, he spoke. This is why we need peace, because even here in the halls of your own ruler's war waits under the skin. Jalira raised her hand. Guards moved in, but slowly. They did not rush to stop the human. They watched, unsure who the enemy really was. Rain released Varn. Let the blade fall to the floor. Let them vote, he said to the council. Let them choose war. Or let them choose to try. Jalira walked to Rain. She tore a strip from her royal cloak, wrapped it around his bleeding arm, and then turned to the council. Tonight you saw truth, not in words, but in action. One came with a weapon. One came with an open hand. Decide who deserves the future. The chamber fell into whispers, but something had already changed. Far away in a dark corner of the palace, a message was sent in secret. Its polished walls still marked with echoes of last night. Where betrayal bled in truth, stood tall Queen Jalira, entered alone, her cloak gone, her blade gone. Only her voice remained. Commander Rain walked beside her, his left arm wrapped in royal cloth, his right hand open and empty. No guards followed them, no banners waved above. There was no celebration, only choice before them. The council gathered once more, tired faces, sharp eyes. She did not demand respect, she simply began to speak. We built this empire with order, with fear, with walls, and we called it peace. She turned slightly, gesturing to Rain. He came through those walls, not with fire, but with questions. He stepped into our trials and walked through them with patience. He faced our fears not to conquer, but to understand. She faced her people fully now. If we destroy this moment, we destroy the future. Rain stepped forward, not to speak for her, but beside her. I am not here to save you. He said, I am not here to rule you. I came because your queen believed there was a different path, and I walked it with her. He paused, letting his words sink through the tension. You call me alien, but in every world there are people who fear change, and there are people who build it. Be builders. The vote began one by one. Symbols of support or denial lit up above each council member. The chamber held its breath. First vote, yes. Second, no. Third, yes. Fourth, no. Then something shifted. The fifth was yes. The sixth was yes. The seventh paused longer. Then yes. One by one, the majority changed. And then the final vote, yes, the treaty passed. The chamber did not erupt in joy. It simply breathed again. As if life had returned to something long asleep, Jalira lowered her head, then turned to Rain. Come with me. She led him to the upper terrace, where the winds touched only those who carried decisions too heavy for most. There on a pedestal rested the crown of Tazeri. She stared at it for a long moment, then reached up and removed the golden crest from her head. She walked to the edge, held it in both hands, and let it fall to the floor. Rain did not speak. She turned to him, eyes clearer than he had ever seen. For years I ruled because I was born to, because no one else would. Because I feared what others might do if I stepped away. But now, I see leadership is not about holding power, it is about passing it forward. She gestured to the crown. His hands touched the cold metal. He lifted it slowly, then offered it back. She took it with both hands, but did not place it on her head again. She held it to her chest today. We do not belong to the past, she said today. We begin something without a name. Rain looked out at the city below. Then let us name it together. Behind them, the stars waited new maps to draw new paths to walk, and far above, orbiting in silence, a human ship received the message: treaty signed, hostile resistance ended, new alliance forming. Await further instructions. Inside that ship, a new voice whispered across channels: history just changed, and humanity helped write the page.